Matthew.
I'm Carlos.
I'm Alex.
And this is Heroes 3 Gaiden. Welcome back to another episode of Heroes 3 Gaiden, our little side ventures into the world of anime with different guests. And we are joined again this week by Alex Hawking of the Swim Fans is the name of your podcast. I'm sorry.
It is. I'm gonna
go listen to Swim Fans. It's good.
I'm gonna make him an offer that he can't refuse.
Hey, wait a second. We're supposed to fight each other now, right? I just realized.
Oh
that
yeah, that's right. The last time Swim Fans talked about which of the Heroes 3 will win a fight.
Okay, Marty's not here, but we do have to follow that up real quick before we start this podcast.
Okay.
So,
oh boy.
Let me tell you,
Carlos, did you create a tier list that has yourself in it?
No, but I will
down
say
special abilities.
Yeah, I should have made a move list for each of us, but I tweeted about it. But I do feel like if we ever did have to fight, it would be like some like overly dramatic Fist of the North Star situation.
Yeah,
where we're equally as hot-blooded about things, but also full of sorrow at the same time.
It's straight up Gal Gaigar versus Gal Figar. There's not a degree of hot-bloodedness under that.
I think that's hilarious. And yeah, if you listen to us and you haven't heard that episode, go listen to the last episode of Swim Fans.
It is the Never Back Down episode,
which I feel is resonant with.
That's Heroes 3 adjacent.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. It's also a good episode of our show as well.
It's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
And they deliberate.
My favorite memory I've heard of Never Back Down was someone on another podcast was talking about Never Back Down, and they saw one of the sequels, and it's called Never Back Down to the Beatdown.
Yep.
But they read it as Never Back Down, the Back Down, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
Awesome.
It's like Jungle to Jungle, Never Back Down to the Beatdown.
Yeah.
That's a reference to all the jungle to
jungle
heads
out
out there.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Those real Allen heads.
We call them tools. So this week,
Friends of Benford.
We're taking a look. This week we're taking a look at Tokyo Godfather from 2003, and this is the first actual proper Christmas movie we've had on the podcast, I believe. Unless I'm forgetting something. But,
ooh, yeah, I think you're right.
Because obviously Christmas is a very Christian Western holiday for the most part. So
Sonny Chiba Street Fighter's not a Christmas movie?
There's definitely red in it. I don't know if there's green in it. Yeah, Christmas through, the other hemisphere's lens. I feel like when I think of Christmas in Japan, actually, one of the things I think of is KFC. Do you guys?
I was about to say KFC, yeah.
So there's the Kentucky Christmas kind of thing, but
that's mostly what I know about Japanese Christmas as well as KFC.
Yeah, and like Annual Gift Man on The Simpsons, right? But it's. I guess those are jokes, but it represents it well because it's more of like a commercial. I mean, it's very commercial here, but I don't think that there's much in the way of spirituality with Christmas in Japan. And actually, I've
read that it's similar to Valentine's Day in a lot of ways, and it's like a romantic kind of holiday where a lot of couples will do things.
They'll get together and feed each other KFC or something. I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah, and I guess that's interesting way to segue into this film because I think this is kind of one of the most spiritual anime that I've ever seen, and actually the way they handle that is really cool too because it's not like a throwing religion in your face or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of covering like how maybe there's some other power that's guiding you to do a certain thing, or there's some kind of protective force that at the same time will bring people together. So I think it's a really Tokyo Godfathers is a really kind of like perfect thing to watch around this time if you're into anime, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed it to my. She doesn't dislike anime, but she's definitely not into anime. But I showed it to my wife, who is very into Christmas movies.
Oh, nice.
And she enjoyed it, which I was very pleasantly surprised. She thought it was very
great.
funny.
It's a lot more violent than a lot of other Christmas movies.
That's true.
But it's got a lot of heart.
There's a few things where she's like, "What's going on there?" And I was like, "It's an anime. You kind of just got to look past some of that."
Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm too deep. I don't see a lot of that. But I do think the other thing that I really enjoy, I mean, obviously we've talked about Satoshi Kon before. And this is following Millennium Actress. This came out in 2003. And I remember seeing it way back because I was trying to think about this. I remember seeing it, and I feel like it got some kind of release pretty early on. Like, I mean, probably right around, well, this is after the anime boom. But one thing that I know that we're probably going to talk about is that when it was originally released over here in the States, it was just Japanese. There was no dub in an era where that wasn't as commonplace, I feel. There was always some dubs. And it was more recently remastered, and G-Kids released it. They've been really good about releasing great films, great anime films, and they went ahead and dubbed Tokyo Godfathers. But what I did learn looking into it was that Sony wanted to release this in the States, trying to get it an Academy Award, and it didn't end up happening. But that gave us the release as quickly as it was released over here. So that's pretty cool.
Gotcha. Oh, cool. Because I do remember whenever I was in middle school whenever this came out. So like I remember I was watching a ton of like Cartoon Network and Toonami and Adult Swim and stuff like that. So I remember seeing it advertised. And I think, actually, it's probably the first Satoshi Kon movie I ever heard of because I saw it advertised probably on Adult Swim. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's an anime movie, and it's about homeless people and stuff. I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, no robots.
And then proceeded to not watch it for almost 20 years. So.
Yeah, I can see that, too, because it's not all of the typical stuff you'd think from an anime. But also, yeah, Satoshi Kon, such a genius at handling character development and handling a narrative. And although he doesn't do his usual jumping all over the place with this film, I feel like he kept himself entertained by linking different themes throughout the movie. It's almost like a puzzle. Like when you're seeing these clues get dropped throughout the movie, you're like, oh, that's there because of that, or this character's named because of that. And I think you are rewarded rewatching the film because you notice those details even more.
Yeah, definitely. Because I watched it dubbed the first time, and then I watched the G-Kids dub, and the G-Kids dub's really good, actually. One of the coolest things about it is that the dub literally came out in March of this year, so it's very recent.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked by that. And Hana is voiced by Shakita Nafak, or Nafak, I don't know how you say it. But she's a trans woman, so it actually was really good casting for this.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And she's fascinating. Like I looked up a bunch of stuff about her, and she's been like a lot of stuff recently. Does a lot of like outreach and supporting trans community and stuff like that. So she's cool. But she's really funny in this too. She does a really good job.
Yeah, cool. And I feel like historically, anime hasn't really handled these subjects very well.
So, yeah, I was a little worried. Whenever I first saw her pop up.
But I do feel like this movie also does a really great job about handling serious subject matter in like the lightest way possible. You have like subjects like death and subjects like transphobia and these things, and they show up in the movie, but at the same time you're kind of, I don't know, there's like this warm energy to it all. So even though like I'm watching the old DVD that I had, and like some of it's like, oh, I don't, that's not something I don't think they would like localize that way nowadays.
Maybe we could translate this as something else, guys.
Yep. But I feel like what's cool to me is that like Hana is like the heart, and she's like the leader of this film, which is really cool. And the subject of kind of like how these three come together, and they're a family. They're not a family, but they're a family, and it's about their growth together, and actually each character's individual growth and how they grow by the end of the film is just beautiful. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of humanizing her in ways that I feel like that is usually denied to trans characters in every medium for the most part.
Yeah, there haven't been. I you do see it. It's like getting better, but it's definitely still a ways to go before there's like as good of trans representation as there has been for gay representation in recent years.
Yeah. So there's parts of the movie where I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of it where it's like, I think their intentions were good.
Yeah.
Right.
Because again, this is still 2003 and in Japan, so you gotta take what you can get in some ways.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I mean,
when's the last time you guys heard Spanish in an anime?
I know. Whenever that happened, I was like, oh, cool. And it's great because half the joke is that the characters have no idea what she's saying, but like, oh, I kind of know I'm picking up a little bit of what she's saying, which is cool.
Nice. I have just recently I went through and watched the tokusatsu show called Kaku Ranger. I mentioned it a little bit, I think. And one of the characters on that show, like the Black Ranger equivalent, he's like an American. He's Japanese, but he's from America, so he's like American Ninja. So when he shows up to meet the group, all he's doing is talking in English, and nobody can understand what he's saying. Yeah. There's a little bit of that same energy going on in this movie. I also wanted to mention the music. So the music's pretty quirky in this movie, and it's actually composed by Keiichi Suzuki. So let me ask you guys this. Is that a name that you recognize? Does it ring any bells?
Yes, it does. Why does it ring a bell?
Okay, so Keiichi Suzuki actually worked on the Mother series.
I knew it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool,
so he was pretty well known as a musician outside of video games. So he worked with Satoshi Kon for this film, but he also worked with Shigesato Itoi to do Mother and Mother 2 with Hirokazu Tanaka, Hip Tanaka. So Keiichi Suzuki's got the, that Earthbound vibe. You can kind of hear it sometimes in this movie
that
too.
Weird, kind of quirky.
Yep. There's like some reggae, there's some like eclectic kind of melodies, and like, I think that's really fun.
And talking about music, a cool thing that I found out doing the research is Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy, features pretty prominently throughout the movie. And I didn't realize that apparently that's a pretty big Christmas song in Japan. And it kind of goes back to actually German POWs in World War I, because that was like a song that they would sing around Christmas time. And the Japanese really liked it, so they kind of adapted it, and it became a big thing.
Oh, interesting.
It is a banger. And it connects to another Christmassy adjacent movie, Die Hard. Which I was thinking, I wonder if the reason they're playing it is because it's like a Japanese corporation in Die Hard during a Christmas party.
Interesting.
You might be giving John McTiernan a little too much credit.
I know, but it's just a cool. I don't know. It's just a cool connection that I was making in my head.
I hope you're right. It's more interesting if you're right.
In the making of featurette, they do talk to Keiichi Suzuki a little bit, and he seemed like he was intimidated by having to use that in the movie. And actually, when he was doing his research, he said that he was most influenced by Wendy Carlos' rendition of it in A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was pretty cool as well.
Another big one that I'm sure you have more information on her than I do, but another person that worked on this it was written by Keiko Nobumoto, and she is one of the main writer for Cowboy Bebop and created Wolf's Rain.
Whoa.
Which is pretty crazy. Like it's a very big, especially in the early aughties. That's a huge
yeah. That's a big deal for American anime fans.
Yeah.
It's still, man, it's almost it has like this resurgence lately. It's like everybody keeps bringing it up, or everybody keeps making memes from the opening song.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but it seems to be popping up a lot lately.
For Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a tradition going back since the You're the Man Now dog days, but...
Oh nice.
Yeah. I it's so sad that I can't share Cosby Bebop with
yeah, dude,
again,
I wanted to... I was hesitant to bring up Cosby Bebop.
What is that?
Pokemon.
It uses all the clips from like the Simpsons.
Yeah, from all the people who are just making fun of that hideous man.
Yeah, not actually him, but it is funny. It's obviously a hard thing to
it's loaded now.
recommend
it's
to people now, but
yeah.
Nice.
But
I was already I was a big fan of Yoko Kanno before Cowboy Bebop came. I'm not trying to be hipster about this, but there's an end to this story. And I really liked Escaflowne, and Yoko Kanno did all the music for that. And then Escaflowne, it's like orchestral, it's like fantasy. So I had heard about Cowboy Bebop and I was getting excited about it, and there's this Japanese hobby store that I always go to, and the guy there's like, yeah, the new Yoko Kanno CD is out. It's for Cowboy Bebop. And I was like, oh, man. So I bought it not even knowing what Cowboy Bebop was. And I started listening to it. And I'm like, this isn't orchestral music.
Yeah. What is this jazz crap?
But I did end up liking it.
I'm just imagining a young Carlos hearing Tank for the first time and going, fuck this! This sucks!
It's like, what the hell is this?
What is this shit? I hate this.
Around that same time was I bought the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack before the game came out because same reason. I love the Final Fantasy games, right? And for me, I was like, this is like a PlayStation version. It's a CD-based game, so the soundtrack's gonna be like full orchestra, like, oh man, I'm so excited. And then when I put it in, it was all this MIDI sounding stuff, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I felt gypped. I actually felt like I wasted my money.
What am I? Who's ever going to want to listen to the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack?
Yep.
I love imagining 90s bad take Carlos.
He's just in his Jinko jeans holding his CD like One Wing Angel, more like One Wing Asshole, and then whips it across the room, angry video game nerd style.
There are two things that are never going to age well. One of them is Final Fantasy VII, and the other one's Cowboy Bebop.
Yep.
If I can make a quick
Gal
shout.
Geiger, that's going to last forever.
Yeah, that's me. Damn it.
I'm sorry, that's mean.
Thank you for taking it back to anime, though. At least we can get back on track.
One more note about Yoko Kanno. She did the music
has
for...
nothing to do with this movie.
Nope, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Did not one note of music for this movie, as far as I know. She did work on the soundtrack to another Japanese Christmas movie that I love called The World of Kaneko. Watch it with your family.
All right.
Don't watch it with your family. Yeah, it was cool. My wife's main notes were that baby's ugly.
Oh.
Because that's like the whole plot of the movie is they find this baby abandoned in a bunch of trash and are trying to find its parents. And the first thing, whenever they like hear this baby crying and cover it, my wife's like, "Why is that baby so ugly?"
From Joanna, just noticed how much the baby was crying throughout the whole movie.
Yes,
yeah, we got another anime movie with a lot of people crying in it.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, makes me think of Yoshi's Island.
Oh, jeez.
Super Mario World 2.
Yep.
Because I tried that's another thing I tried to show Callie was like, oh yeah, this game's awesome. It has like amazing music and stuff. And she's like, why is a baby crying the whole time?
Yeah. Visually, I wanted to talk a little bit about this movie because we haven't talked about Perfect Blue, right? But Swim Fans has.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I remember mentioning to somebody about this was that originally when Perfect Blue came out, I had thought, well, why is this animation? Why isn't this just a real movie? But as I grew, I understood, oh, wow, there's no way that this could have actually worked as a movie in the way that it did in this animation as a medium. And similarly,
Black Swan's close, but
yeah, but I mean, it's standing on the shoulders of Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
But with Tokyo Godfathers, I feel like anybody that's interested in animation and wants to do like any studying on character acting in animation, this is like the top
Absolutely.
of the mountain. Yeah, the way that these characters emote and the way that they're just moving constantly in their own ways is just, it's so perfect. Like you know, you've seen like when they show Disney animators using people like to act as reference and stuff like that. I don't think that's as successful as what they accomplish in this film, because they do these exaggerations that you really couldn't do, but it just looks so human and so real at the same time in this movie. Hana is the perfect example to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anytime Hana is getting fired up, anytime she's running or anything, it's just so entertaining. Every frame of animation is so good, and you still have that volume and that attention to detail in every frame. It's really enjoyable to watch. So I wouldn't write this movie off because there isn't like any like laser beams or martial arts. There's like one roundhouse kick in this movie.
Young Carlos throwing his DVD of Tokyo Godfather. Why is this even animated?
Yeah, right. Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like, I do like I've been there before, but I've never liked the why is this animated? Because like, why is it's animated because the person that made it wanted to animate it.
Right.
Like,
that's
what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think that this movie just would not be nearly as compelling and like attention grabbing if it was live action as well.
Yeah, because like they are more realistically proportioned than a lot of anime characters are, but like they are exaggerated. Like Hana's massive.
It
like
would
Hana's
play like an Adam
tall
Sandler movie if it was live action.
Exactly.
It just wouldn't work. You wouldn't have the same movie.
And the Yakuza boss. It's like this gigantic, like Ox King sized man.
And the absurd moments like that, like when they first encounter him under the car.
Yeah, under the car, yeah.
You're like, what? It's really good.
Did either of you read about the source material for this movie?
I read a little bit, but not too much.
I guess it was originally a Western.
Yeah, so there's a John Ford film
Yeah.
from like the late 40s, I think. It's actually stars John Wayne, called Three Godfathers, and I think that it's kind of like a very, very loose.
Oh, I imagine they have
adaptation.
very, very little in common.
Yeah.
But I still think that it's interesting that it has this sort of legacy, because that was like one of like 5 other Western adaptations of this novel. So I guess I kind of assumed that the novel was a Western.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Nice.
I couldn't really pin that down, but because it's like a book from like 80 years ago or something. Probably, even maybe like 90 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. It's cool to see this like radically different approach to a source material. I think something about that gives it a bit of like a, I don't know, there's something kind of richer about it. And I think the Western ones are supposed to lean way more heavy into the idea that the 3 Godfathers are the 3 wise men as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting too when you start to kind of look at those kind of religious analogs. I think even when they first encounter Kyoko, the baby, it's like a garbage heap, but the way that the shot's framed, that you could almost see it like the nativity.
Totally.
They're like
100%.
Yeah, like fishing through and they find her. And even so Kyoko, the name of the child, Kyoko means pure child. It's like, you know, everything that's in the movie that has a name or is intentional. You know, Angel shows up multiple times, so the cat, Miyuki's cat, is named Angel. There's the Angel's Tower, which is the like the transgender, like the drag queen bar. What else was Angel? Oh, at the beginning when Miyuki's spitting down at people, like the first scene when you meet Miyuki, she's spitting down towards the street, and there's a billboard that she's behind, and it says Angel's Tears in Japanese on the billboard.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty funny to think about.
That's really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that in the movie. The 12/25, you know, the date of Christmas, shows up over and over and over. So the apartment key that they find is 12/25, the locker key.
Oh, you're right.
The taxi cab, the number of the taxi cab is 12/25.
I feel like an idiot for missing that.
Well, that's what I'm saying about the movie. I don't think that means you're dumb. I just think that Satoshi Kon put all these things in, you know, just to have all these layers for you. So if you go and watch the movie again, you'll notice these things. And thematically too, how Gin, at the beginning, he's talking to them about how he was a bike racer and how he suffered this tragedy and he lost his family, and that's why he's like a homeless guy. And he also says lines like, you know, we're not action heroes or anything. But then by the end of the movie, you've got Gin on a bike racing at top speed against a car, and he ends up hanging off the side of a moving vehicle like an action hero. These little things do a lot. It makes the movie that much more important to me, because there are these like kind of warm little details. It's not like this thing where it's like, I fooled you by tricking you not noticing this. I think it's just like this really kind of almost in a sweet way. These are these really fun little details that you can notice and really get more out of the watching the next time you see it.
So I asked Matthew this in before you got into the call, Carlos, but do you know what this movie's legacy is like in Japan?
I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, obviously, people hold Satoshi Kon's work pretty highly, and I mean, they did before he passed, but now that he's passed, even more so. And I talked about, in our Paprika episode, I talked about how he's working on his final film and he passed away, and that there was an effort to try and finish this movie, but ultimately it was never completed. And I mean, that's really tragic. But regarding Tokyo Godfathers, I don't know where it lands for fans of his work. For me, I put it pretty high up there, of course. And I just think each of his works strike you know, a different tone in a great way. I've never looked up to see if people like rank Satoshi Kon's movies, because I know that doesn't really appeal to me. But I think,
sorry.
I just think that, you know, Satoshi Kon's so cool to me that I just really enjoy all his movies in different ways.
I guess I'm really curious how, like in America, when a piece of Christmas media hits, it never really goes away. Like there's this sort of like cultish worship of that Will Ferrell Elf movie that I never saw, and I was just like, yeah, okay, who gives a shit? I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Could be great.
Watch. It's really I really love Elf, but
it's still around. You know, people still bring it up every year, or like Home Alone. You know,
or A Christmas Story.
But then obviously there's the flip side of stuff like Fred Claus, who gives a shit. I've seen that one. That's a nothing. And there are people like the goddess who I worship, Mariah Carey, who just cash in every Christmas. Because they had like one Christmas single home run back in like 1994 or whatever. but it's such an unpredictable landscape of what's just going to be around forever. And like they've been running the same Christmas specials every year since like the 1950s. Like Rankin Bass is this entity that seemingly only existed to create Christmas specials from like 1955 to 1965, and we still watch them every year. And I was wondering if this had any sort of like following like that in Japan, because obviously there is so much attention put into this. It can be watched over and over. Like Americans do with Christmas specials, and more can be like taken from it, you know. So I was just
I totally get it. I don't know, but I mean, I've been a fan of Japanese culture for so long that they do go back and revere things. I don't know how traditional it gets when it comes to the holidays, but I don't know. I was surprised that G Kids did what they did with this so recently too. Like when
it feels forgotten to me. It really does.
Yeah. But I think it's rewatchable. It's so rewatchable.
Oh yeah. No, this like you were saying, this definitely, like, even just in the 2 times that I watched it in the past week, I felt like, oh, I didn't catch that from before. It's there's a lot of things that they reveal, like that the baby is given a name that's also the name of like 3 other characters in the movie.
Right. Yeah, just how there are all these parallels running through the movie that it's like these little miracles that happen, or, you know, like circumstance brings everything together. Kyoko is the name of like 3 characters. And Kyoko, Gin's daughter Kyoko, she reveals that she's marrying this doctor. And that was another thing I wanted to ask you, Alex. I don't know if you recognize his voice, but the doctor's played by Akio Otsuka. That's Solid Snake's voice.
Oh no, I wouldn't. I'm David Hayter. David Hayter, die, you know.
Right, but I think Akio Otsuka is a very legendary voice actor too. So you definitely.
I've seen plenty of trailers with his voice in it.
Yeah. He's also Blackjack anytime the Osamu Tezuka character Blackjack's around. He's also I'm pretty sure like any like major like action here. I don't know if he was Schwarzenegger's voice when they dubbed like Schwarzenegger movies, but he's like Bruce Willis and all these guys. He's got that voice, you know. He's done a lot of voice work, and he's only in that one scene. So there's like a couple of little things like that where they have like kind of a stunt cast like guest in there. The main cast in the Japanese version, Miyuki, I forget her name, but that was like her first role. And then the 2 other men, didn't do enough homework for this. This is pretty casual episode.
That's Akio Otsuka,
you didn't do your research, man. I finished watching this movie like 45 minutes ago.
Before we did this, before I watched it for this episode, I hadn't seen this movie in like, I don't know, like a decade, I think.
Yeah, it's recently been about 8 years for me.
Yeah. After we covered Redline, I kind of got sucked into a black hole of anime that I had been meaning to watch but hadn't watched. So I got a nice DVD set of Wings of Oniami's, the first Gainax feature, and I'd seen parts of that so long ago, but I'd never taken the time to revisit it. And that was really cool. And I saw from the mid-'80s a feature called Birth. It's got some really nice animation in that, and I had never seen it in its entirety, so I watched it just the other day, and it's pretty awesome. You'd love it, Alex. It's very Alex, I think. I'll share it with you later.
Whoa, what does that mean?
It looks... You'd understand if I see it. That's not an insult. I think that would vibe with you really well.
It's not like you'd love it, Josh.
Yeah.
Which is an insult to Josh McKenzie.
Nice.
Something that I've noticed that's pervasive through all Christmas media, except for, you know, the like quasi Christmas stuff, sort of like Die Hard and its ilk, is that the setting of Christmas lets you get like real saccharine, and it works. It's not an insult. It works. You can play it way more sincere than you normally could, you know.
in a similar way, it also allows you to get way darker because because anyone watching it knows, well, it's gonna end up okay at the end because it's a Christmas movie. So like, there are plenty of Christmas movies that deal like, It's a Wonderful Life is about a man about to commit suicide, but it's Christmas, so you know that it's gonna end up being okay.
It's kind of like there's this thing with like war movies where no matter how like depressing a war movie gets, you're still kind of glorifying the struggle of the troops, and so it can always be interpreted as a pro-war movie.
Yeah.
I think there's something similar going on with Christmas where you can get as bleak as you possibly can as long as it comes together for a happy ending.
Yeah, I love that comparison. War movies and Christmas movies.
Well, obviously they're very unrelated, but there's a similar sort of like mental gymnastics a trick you can play on the human brain where it'll still be okay regardless of what happens,
Yeah, that's great.
And in a similar note, this movie it does have a little bit of suicide. It has a woman stealing a baby. It has the Yakuza versus I don't know, the Latinx mob or whatever, like the sneaking into the movie. Yeah, it wasn't whenever I saw the big guy, I was like, he does look kind of like the kind of shorthand for a Yakuza boss, because he's like the really, really big guy. And it's a very like Godfather, Day of My Daughter's Wedding kind of situation
absolutely.
Too. But I wasn't expecting it to turn into like someone trying to kill him and stealing stealing the baby.
It almost turns into like this reverse Final Destination situation where it's like you want to see how like all these things get worse and worse, but you kind of get the sense that everything's gonna be okay, like you were saying, Alex. So like you're like, okay, how are they gonna get saved? If Hana does dive after this baby and is falling off the side of a building, how is she gonna survive? You know, it's almost like an inverse tension. You're tense for a positive resolution. You're not like in fear of something bad really happening. You never feel like the baby's gonna get hurt over and over or anything.
And it ends with this big like divine intervention thing.
It's adorable.
But like I said, it's Christmas, so it works. Like you like any other movie, if you did that, you'd be like, what the hell? And then you'd like throw your copy across the room into your pile of unwashed Jinko jeans. But in a Christmas movie, you kind of like, yeah, it is Christmas, it is nice.
Growing
that's beautiful, actually.
Did you guys ever experience Christmas quote unquote miracles?
Let's see. Okay, this is real dumb, but my mom talks about it every year. My little brother wanted a copy of Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U, but my mom accidentally bought him Brawl. And so she just happened to be like, oh, come here, I'll show you what I got Jake. And I was like, that's not the game he wanted. And so she always said that I saved Christmas by getting my brother the right copy of Super Smash Brothers.
That's funny.
That's awesome. When I was a kid, I forget what year it was. I must have been like 6 or 7, I think. It seemed so real to me. It was Christmas Eve, and we're home, and it was there was a bad like blizzard that night, and something happened. I forget what it was, but we could hear like jingle bells, but it sounded like it was coming from our rooftop. And my parents were like, it's Santa Claus. And I was like, what? Like, for real? Like, and like for years after that, like, until like, I don't know. I always wanted to believe that, it was like always more fun to believe things like that. Yeah. I always would talk about that. Like, Santa was on like our rooftop and I heard him.
Imagining you just have like an uncle that was just standing up there, like clopping around and shaking the jingle bells.
We all heard it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what
Did
it
they put like a
was.
stereo up there or something? Maybe there was like a cassette tape you could buy at the mall that was like, put this in your boombox and put it on your roof to trick your children.
The thing was that the weather was so bad. You know, I was like, "There's no way that anybody could have done anything."
That's true. I'm imagining Southern Georgia Christmas, not Midwest. Can't step outside Christmas.
Right, and there was also I talked about this on the Heroes 3 Gaiden, the video game music playlist that I was making. A couple of those, we got Mega Man 3 for Nintendo for Three Kings in like Puerto Rico. There's like a Christmas after Christmas.
Yeah.
Actually tying it back to this movie because it was the Three Kings, right? So you'd leave like cookies or milk or hay for the camels or whatever. And
right, because it's like instead of Santa, it's Three Kings.
Yeah,
leave them out for the Tokyo Godfathers. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and
a bottle of sake.
we'd usually just get like a little, like a couple $5 or something, you know, because it was after Christmas. Like you're not gonna get another big present, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know what happened this year, but when we woke up in the morning, Mega Man 3 was waiting for us underneath the bed. It was crazy. What my hunch is that you couldn't find Mega Man 3 that Christmas, but maybe somebody found it like after Christmas, so it was like just enough time, and they're like, all right, we wanted to get it for Christmas, but we just didn't get it in time, so then we're gonna put it for Three Kings.
Similar. I think I may have an alternate explanation for that. One year we were supposed to get I think it was Happy Gilmore on VHS. But we didn't. This is like my days of like, I know where the Christmas presents are, and I'm going to go poke my head in. Maybe I'll happen to see something, and I happen to see a copy of Happy Gilmore for VHS. And then no one got it.
What?
That year. But
Santa took it back.
We talked about renting it one time, and my mom was like, "What are you talking about? We have that movie." And I'm like, "No." And you know, I'm still playing it cool. I don't want to blow up my own spot here of knowing where the Christmas presents are hidden. And so I'm like, "No, we don't." And then she's like, "Hang on," and she ran and got it.
No way. That's hilarious. Yeah, maybe it was a forgotten present.
Yeah. Maybe it was left at the bottom of the present bag or something.
Damn. Pour one out for all the forgotten presents.
Island of Misfit Toys.
Yep.
It's a copy of Mega Man 3 and a VHS tape of Happy Gilmore.
Wow, this Tokyo Godfathers episode just turned into its own Christmas special.
It's funny y'all are saying all this. I really don't have any like I had plenty of nice Christmases as a kid, but I don't have any like really specific memories of specific things. Our tradition was always the night before Christmas. Me and my brothers would always watch like Star Wars and Indiana Jones or something like that. Very cool. Not Christmassy movies. So nice. It's kind of hard for me to not associate those with Christmas.
My brother Joel and I usually play Gears of War. We call it Gearsmas. It's pretty tight. This year we both have computers capable of running Gears 5, so I won't be home for Christmas, but I will be able to play Gears 5 with my brothers.
That's awesome.
If only in Gears of War.
Carlos, do you have any family traditions around Christmas?
Well, what we have been doing in recent years is going over by my brother's, and we just kind of hang out, and we usually throw movies on. I think the tradition is that my brother makes kick-ass food. My brother
that's a good one.
Killing it. Oh man, some Puerto Rican. My mom makes the rice. I'm Puerto Rican, right? Rice, arroz con gandules, some pernil. It's like this pork shoulder roast. It's like amazing. So I would throw it to my bro making awesome food. I don't think he's ever gonna hear this, but thank you.
Can I share one more inexplicable Hawking Christmas tradition?
Of course.
Sorry, it's the Christmas episode.
You're fine.
And we can get back to anime. We all throw cups at each other, which Carlos is well aware of that. But then after that, we usually all watch John Frankenheimer's like 2002 film Reindeer Games, starring Ben Affleck.
Are they like hunting people?
No, it's a movie that takes place in the UP. It's like a neo-noir that takes place in the UP where Ben Affleck and Gary Sinise are trying to rob the Ojibwa Casino in right outside Marquette, Michigan.
That's awesome.
Wasn't filmed there, but it takes place there. And that, I guess, is enough for my family to pop that one in every year.
That's UP great. Meaning Upper Peninsula to y'all not from Michigan.
For all of you with the benefit of not knowing what that
is. Nice.
Anime.
It's so funny. I was actually my anime love kind of sparked after my brothers left for college because they always made fun of me for liking like
they couldn't beat you up anymore.
So
I know that too. I know that feeling too. Mine were. Go on.
But yeah, and actually, yeah, this would have been around that time, 2003. It was around whenever I started really getting into stuff. Probably one of the again, we're talking about like dark and light kind of mixing, like dark and light tones that is kind of mixing together. I really like the scene where Gin kind of separates from the rest of the group and gets with the really old homeless man who's like about to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's like was legitimately one of the funniest gags in the whole movie is whenever like the guys, you think he's finally died, he goes to close his eyes and his eyes are still wide open.
Yeah, that's great. Oh man, yeah, that doesn't get old for me. I'll always laugh at that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then it's immediately followed by a bunch of punk kids beating the crap out of him.
Yeah. They drag his dead body out, and it gets real dark for Christmas tone. You can do it, baby. You can get away with anything.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite moments too. I also just really love how the moments where our main characters come to realize how everything's working out for them. Like when Gin's in the hospital and he meets his daughter and how that all comes out. And actually Hana's reaction to that heartfelt reunion.
Yeah.
Hana, is conflicted because Hana has feelings for Gin and she lashes out at him. And actually it's really funny how she just like blurts everything out, like almost trying to undo the reunion that he's having right there.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that. And then the whole thing with the lottery ticket, how this is like, they're like, oh, this has never happened before, but the lottery is all ones. And then you later on you see that the Gin has that ticket.
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny.
I also like whenever they track down the parents' house and they find that it's burned down, and they're like asking the neighbors what happened, and every time it cuts back to them, it's like more of the neighborhood gossips together, like trying to piece together what happened. It's really cute, like cut.
And that's really fun too, how they end up finding it, because they have this photo of the husband and wife, and you can see in the background that they're there's a landmark that they're finding. So the only thing they're using to locate it is that landmark. So they're kind of trying to line it up, the perspective, just like how it shows up in the photo. Like in did you guys play Breath of the Wild?
No.
Yeah.
It's so funny you said that. My wife said the same thing. She said, "Oh yeah, it's like lining it up. It's kind of like in Breath of the Wild, whenever you have to find
find these memories.
Yeah, find all different things." I was like, huh.
Yeah, Alex, you're given this clue of a photo in Zelda, and there's no, there's landmarks in the photo, so you have to use that to line it up. And when you get to the right spot, it triggers a cutscene.
It's
really cool.
Rise of Skywalker. She gets.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's cooler.
We could do again. I would love to do Heroes 3 Gaiden of that, but I couldn't talk about Disney Star Wars without Marty around. So.
Oh yeah, that'd be real good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Have me on for that.
Whenever Yuki and the baby get kidnapped, and she's in the room with the nursing mother, and she's only speaking in Spanish and she's trying to understand it. I did like whenever she shows an old picture of herself, the lady basically says, "Wow, you used to be really fat," but in Spanish.
Yeah, she says like, "Teach me how you did that." That's what she says to her. After.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Oh, that rules.
Yeah. That's the whole, everything with this movie is attention to detail. And that's just one more step that, like, there's, these people speaking a foreign language and making jokes in the other language that you really wouldn't get unless you, like, had someone explain it to you or you knew the language. It just shows how much care and attention was put into the movie.
In that older release, the Sony release, they don't subtitle any of the Spanish. I don't know how they handle that in the G-Kids version.
It's just Spanish. I think it's a different voice actors for it, but it's still Spanish, and I think it's pretty much the same lines, but they don't subtitle it. Although because there's the joke in the original audio where the guy is saying stuff to Spanish to her, and then she says, "Thank you very much," like English.
Yeah, in the Japanese audio, she says it in English.
But in the dub, it's her saying like "muy gracias."
That's
pretty good.
I like that. That's a good way to do it.
That's fun.
That's a good localization. Good on you, G-Kids. Quality work.
When they do get to that apartment where they're rifling through all of the stuff, they find out that it's been burned down. There is a moment where they're panning through all the junk, and there's some VHS tapes that have labels written on them.
One of them says Star Wars.
Yeah, so the other ones, one says Titanic, and one says Rambo 2.
Oh, hell yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
Record them off HBO
the big
or something.
3.
Yep.
That's a pretty good Christmas viewing. My wife would be into that, actually. She
a Rambo 2 fan?
Hadn't seen Rambo 2, but she's a lot more into action movies than you'd think. Like, she had never seen the Terminator movies before we started dating, and now they're like they're like her favorite movies. So.
Yeah. You should show her Rambo 3. That one's insane. It's my favorite propaganda film.
Yeah, that's right. That's because it's like to the proud Mujahideen fighters.
That one is dedicated to the Taliban.
Oh, so good.
USA. USA.
Ugh. But the kind of conclusion to the movie is they find the woman who they think is the mother and have like a tearful reunion. And that's a great line too, where whenever Hana meets back up with Gin, she says, "You just missed it. We had a beautiful finale."
Yeah, that's great.
That twist, probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah,
it really does feel like it's wrapping up. Like we mentioned, It's a Wonderful Life earlier, someone being stopped from killing themselves by jumping off of a bridge is weirdly a Christmas trope, I guess.
You're not wrong, because actually you haven't seen Elf, but there's like a reference to it in Elf. He's not actually going to kill himself, but there is a reference of like looking over the bridge at the river and stuff.
That's great. I love culture. So you can get real dark on Christmas as long as you get saccharine with it, and it does that. Like, you think you have that, like that would kind of be a satisfactory ending, but it's not, and it pushes further. I think it adds so much to the movie.
Yeah, and it gets very. She feels like a character from a different Satoshi Kon movie.
Yeah,
because
there's something very me-mania about her.
Yeah, totally.
I like that too, because on the rewatch, I remember the first time watching it thinking, it seems weird that the baby's like still crying. I feel like that doesn't fit like thematically, that the baby's still crying with its mother or whatever. And then when you find out it's not really the mother, you're like, oh.
When Gin shows up to them, when you mentioned that about the finale, that's another instance of this glorious character acting and animation. He's so tired he can't talk, so he's pantomiming like what he wants to know, like, and the couple like 3 seconds of animation right there is just perfect.
And then the terrifying like shot from the baby's perspective of the fake mother like staring down at the baby. It's creepy.
That part is like legitimately like unnerving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels kind of like something from like Perfect Blue or something.
Yeah,
like, first kind of losing their grip on reality. But yeah, and this turns into this kind of like, it is like an action movie chase where it just keeps escalating, and again starts riding after them on the bike and everything.
There's the moment on top of the roof, when Miyuki's finally chasing after, the climactic scene. Mm-hmm. They do this technique that reminded me actually of Akira, where there's this spotlight shining down and the scene is actually silent, but the moment that the spotlight lands on the character, then you hear the noise from the helicopter. This reminds me of in Akira towards the beginning when they're on the highway and then the military finally shows up. I wonder, I haven't seen it in anything else, but it's very similar to that scene, so I wonder if that's intentional.
I can see that. Probably my favorite bit of animation in the whole movie, though, is whenever all of our crew is chasing after her, they take the stairs because she took the elevator, and they're both so tired. And there's the amazing shot of Hana and Gen like rolling whenever they get to the top of the stairs because they're so tired. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that results in our kind of miraculous saving, because it starts with a creepy bit where the baby talks to the mother. It says like, I want to go back home, and but then like she drops the baby and Hana like does this crazy like wall run move to save it. And there's this big gust of wind that like stops her, like catches this like banner she's holding on to, and very slowly lowers her down to the ground.
Kind of like Rush Hour when they fall down a big banner in Rush Hour.
It's totally like that. Nice. Oh man, that's good. There is some moments. There are some moments in the film where they use computer animation, but it's all very tasteful. They handle it just by using it for the backgrounds, and everything's textured so well that aside from the dramatic scrolling, you wouldn't be able to really notice that it's CG.
I will say, in the G-Kids version is in beautiful 1080 HD. You can definitely tell it a little more. In that version, it's a little rougher, but it's still not bad. And obviously everything, all the hand-drawn stuff still is gorgeous.
I wonder what types of extra features I'd want to watch that. I'm probably going to pick it up. I have the DVD.
Yeah, I might
There's
too.
like a making of featurette, but that's pretty much it on this one.
I guess I also want to compliment the movie on its color palette. Like obviously Satoshi Kon has like had a really like ironclad grip on his color palette. Perfect Blue being one of the most astonishing examples of, I think, using color in animation in a way that feels like, obviously not the way it's paced or shot, but like how Antonioni used color, of like in this really kind of surreal way with these really like jarring breaks in it. But this feels like a Edward Hopper painting or something, where there's sort of this like mostly empty city with these characters in it, and has all these really great kind of earth tones in it. Looks beautiful. I imagine it will never age.
I get what you're saying, because I'm not as cultured, because I was like, Edward Hopper, why do I know that name? But yeah, Nighthawks, Nighthawks that's genuinely one of probably the most moved I've ever been looking at a piece, like a painting or a piece of art, was whenever I saw Nighthawks at the Art Institute in Chicago.
It's fantastic.
And like, yeah, it's crazy. Like you really, I don't even know, it kind of leaves you speechless.
It's a cliche to have for me it was seeing Starry Night at MoMA of being like, oh, that's why this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like, I get it now. But Nighthawks is like, oh, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just hit me with it all at once, and I'm there. And I'm inside of this painting now. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah. That's a good comparison to this, because it's all about like the darkness on the outside and like warm artificial light on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
For me, you want to hear what my moment was like that?
Yes, at 100%.
Well, we're being artsy fartsy.
It's a very Carlos thing, actually. So it was actually where I work. I work at an art museum, and years ago we had a show featuring comic book artists, and it was called Masters of American Comics. And they had some original Jack Kirby artwork,
cool.
And they actually had the Fantastic Four 49, the issue where Galactus is looming over them, that legendary iconic.
Yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I was able to see that, like the original art of that, and that was kind of what did it for me. There was a lot of
appropriately Carlos answer.
But I mean, Jack Kirby's a master as well, you know.
Yeah, and there was like Winsor McCay in that show.
Oh my god,
it was awesome.
Why didn't I go to that?
I don't know. I just feel like blessed that I was able to see that show, and it was so close to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the movie ends with them in another hospital, and we find out that Miyuki's dad is like the inspector that was talking, like got the baby back to the real parents, and they reunite it just before the credits. And then there's this weird like reggae version of Ode to Joy, which is kind of cool.
It's awesome.
And there's this weird
no irony. I love it so much. And
there's this weird like the buildings are bouncing kind of thing in the background, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it's a fun kind of song to close it out with.
Yeah, I think the group is called Moonchild. It's Keiichi Suzuki's rock group. They got back together to perform the song.
Cool.
Getting the band back together.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're never gonna do another Mother game, so.
Oh man, dude, Mother 3 soundtrack's awesome too, but it's by Shogo Sakai.
Mm-hmm.
And it's huge. So Mother 3 was a Game Boy Advance game, and the soundtrack for Mother 3 is like 4 or 5 discs of a soundtrack.
Wow.
It's really good. It's very different from Mother 1 and Mother 2, but I think that it's really strong in its own way.
This is completely unconnected to anything Tokyo Godfathers, but I feel like the Game Boy Advance is one of those weird game music graveyards.
I was gonna say the same thing because I think that hardware sounds like ass.
It does. It's fascinating, but it doesn't sound good.
Right. You guys should check out the Mother 3 soundtrack, because it's just like, from what you're saying, you'd be very impressed with what Shogo Sakai does with that.
I played a bit of Mother 3.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
I made it through that opening with the fire.
Yeah.
I think that was it though.
I think it's heartfelt in a very similar way to Tokyo Godfathers.
Hey, there
actually.
We go.
We're bringing it back.
I'm serious. I think that, I don't know. I think the advertisements for Mother 3 were like, this game will make you cry or something. It was something along those lines. Because Shigesato Ito is like known as like a copywriter. He'll make like taglines, and I think that's what it was.
Can a video like game make you cry?
Yeah. It's really good. And I played it at a very important time in my life that really struck the same way. So it was like very, it resonated with me really strongly.
I get that.
I think the tagline to Mother 1 was "No crying until the end," which is a hell of a tagline for anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that as an A+ on the tagline grading.
Yeah, that dude's he can write some stuff.
But yeah, Tokyo Godfathers. Any final thoughts on the movie?
Dope. Slaps.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. This is such a fun movie, and it hits that heartfelt note, and it's not cynical in the least, but it still has enough like kind of darkness to it to really, really get you in the Christmas mood.
Yeah, and I feel like if you have faith, if that's a part of your celebration of the holiday, there's that there for you. If you're against that, if you have the opposite of it, I think it rewards you for those beliefs as well.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Hana's like, out of the three characters, she's like the most like religious seeming of the. Even at the beginning, the missionaries, all the homeless people are listening to the sermon, and she's just glowing listening to that, and you see Gin behind like mocking it, and you even have like a moment where when Miyuki's with the mom, the Latina mom, she's kind of making fun of her mom praying all the time. And when they show the flashback, you see her praying. So there's like both sides of it. I think that's really cool.
That's cool.
This movie deserves every bit to be included in the Christmas special canon.
Yeah. I would agree. That's actually, there's a I have kind of mixed feelings on this channel and all, but the YouTube channel Mother's Basement talks about anime a lot. He has a really good episode about basically finding an anime Christmas special, and he talks about a couple other things, but then ends it saying like, but Tokyo Godfathers is the best one to watch on a consistent yearly basis. Well, that's going to do it for Tokyo Godfathers. Thank you so much for taking a listen to our show here. If you like the show, you can leave us a review on whatever you're listening to this on. You can follow the show at Heroes the Number 3 Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. And Facebook, actually. We have a Facebook, too. I'm sorry. I do another podcast that doesn't have a Facebook, and I keep forgetting to have that. So, but Alex, thank you again for joining us. Do you have anything to plug?
Yeah. Also, invite me back anytime. I love you guys. Love the show.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
My podcast is my main Squeeze podcast or whatever. I don't know. Swim Fans. Yeah. We're a teen movie, sometimes an erotic thriller movie podcast. Depending on when this came out, it's either before or after our Christmas episode, which is David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Nice.
Is a Christmas movie. Don't at me. Check us out, swimfanspod.com. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, of course. Oh, and also, if you like the music at the top of the episode, I have that on my YouTube channel, Major Third on YouTube. And I should have another one up. Hopefully, whenever this goes live, it'll be up. But if not, it'll be close. So
I'm trucking on some artwork.
Yeah, Carlos is doing art for it, so I'm waiting for it.
I can talk about that just a little bit. I used to do pixel art for this podcast, like every episode, and as I was getting, I guess for me, as I was getting better at it and learning more, it became much more intimidating because I think like pixel art's like kind of like, I don't know, to me it's like pretty technical. It's weird. But anyway, so this artwork that I'm working on, I'm returning to do pixel art for it, and I've actually really, really enjoyed what I've been up to. Yeah, and actually feel really excited to do more pixel art because of it. So thank you for that. And thank you for
doing the art. So.
Yeah, thank you for making the awesome music to go with it. So I'm really excited for people to see that piece of art. And I also had a really great time making the art for the Mazinger Z theme. And Warren, my buddy, my tag partner, my art tag partner, he helped me out with that, and I think it looks super awesome. So yeah, please check out the YouTube video for that if you enjoyed the intro to the episode, and look forward to the next 8-bit cover from Matthew.
Thanks.
And my artwork.
Well, until next week where we're talking about something. I'm Matthew.
What? Next week?
Okay, you know what I mean. Next episode. I'm Matthew.
I'm Carlos.
I'm Alex.
And this is Here's 3 Gaiden. See you next time.
Remember your baby.
Remember your baby.
That's all I got.
Awesome.
Here's 3 is part of the Mercado Brothers Podcast Network.